Hello, my most amazing artists. Hello, my most amazing art teacher. I hope you're having an awesome day so far. I'm so sad that I can't be there with you, but I know that your substitute teacher is going to have an awesome time with you. I'm actually in New York City, which is north of you, at an art teacher convention where I'm learning about a whole bunch of new art projects, and I'm meeting different art teachers and getting some new art supplies and just everything artsy. So I'll see you when I get back to school on Monday. By the way, I wonder if you've noticed that Patty the Pencil has dressed up for Dr. Seuss Week, and she's saying have a Seussy week. I wonder, can you guess Patty's favorite Dr. Seuss book? I wonder she's wearing a costume and there's a hat. Did you say The Cat in the Hat? Because if you did, you would be correct. Patty's favorite Dr. Seuss book is The Cat in the Hat. Now, my favorite Dr. Seuss book, which was on the announcements yesterday morning or Wednesday morning, is Oh, the Places You'll Go. Because they said, the quote was, you've got brains in your head, you've got feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose, which I think is such a great inspirational quote. Anyways, I hope that you're on your best behavior for the substitute teacher, and I hope you have an awesomely artsy day. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what you're going to do today. Okie dokie, my amazing fifth graders. Now, I know that you recall that we've been talking all about lizards and chameleons and all the really, really awesome visual texture that you see on their bodies and on their faces. And look at that oogly googly eye. And you know that my favorite page of this book was the noses page because of all the interesting noses that the chameleons have. So today, you're going to continue with adding your visual texture, and you are going to be starting to color and to paint your artwork. So a couple things you need to make sure of. You need to make sure that you've traced all of your outlines with a thick or a thin permanent marker, a Sharpie. You could use a colored Sharpie or a black Sharpie to trace all of your lines. Next, you need to make sure that you have enough visual texture outlined on the face and any other areas, such as the tree branch, or if you have a leaf or a rock or something like that. And finally, if you would like to add any texture without any outlines, you could do that by using a crayon, which you all know will create a nice resist for the watercolor paints. Or you could also use the colored permanent markers because they will not bleed. You cannot use a regular marker because that will get all drippy. Now what I did, I'll show you a couple different examples. For this small area, I used a fine point Sharpie and I used the Micron, and I did not draw it with pencil first. I just went to Sharpie and Marker Town and just kind of drew all those little bumps and lumps and little circly shapes. Same thing in that eyeball. I just added all those shapes freehand. Same thing on the, I don't know if they're called horns or tusks or whatever they're called. Now on these dots, you'll notice that they do not have an outline. And what I did for that, I used, on this side, I used a permanent orange marker just to add some bumps, maybe some circly shapes. They don't have to be colored in. Okay, on this side, I chose to use a crayon to show you what that would look like with the crayon. There are much more color options for crayons, but you don't get that nice super duper fine point. If you wanted to have white spots, remember what that looks like, that if you draw the white crayon and then you paint over top, it will kind of stand out. So I just chose an orange crayon and I just put, you know, wherever I think my stripe might be, that yellow stripe with the orange spots, and anywhere that there's not a stripe, I did not have orange spots. So that's just sort of one option. You could also paint your picture, and then next week, once it's dry, you can go back over top with a crayon or a Sharpie once it's dry, if you're not sure what you want to add just yet. Okay? Once you're ready to paint, you will head over to the sink where the substitute teacher, who you are, of course, behaving like amazing artists for, will help you out. You are going to need a small water cup, not full to the tippy top, probably like 75% full, and a round tray. And you can start with 2, maybe 3 colors of liquid watercolors, and you're going to get about 3-ish drops of watercolor paint. Now this is concentrated. If you've ever washed laundry or done the dishes, you know that you put a little bit of soap in, then you add water and it gets really, really soapy. This is like really, really, really dark color, and when you add a little bit of water, it will turn lighter, because you cannot just use this color right on your paper. Your paper's like a sponge and it will slurp up all that color. So we don't want it to bleed through too much to the other side. So we definitely want to add some water, but you don't want to pour it in. So what I want to do, I just want to wet my brush. And let's say I'm starting with the green. I'll wet my brush. Don't want to dry it too much. And I'll just maybe touch the green. See how I'm just touching sort of the edge of the green? And I'm going to check it out and see if that's... All right, so that's a little bit light, so I might not add any more water. I might just dip back in the green with the little teeny bit of water that's right here and the water that's already on my paper, and I'll just sort of start to spread that out. Now you don't want your colors to be too dark, otherwise it will defeat the purpose of drawing all those really cool textures that you just drew. Now if you recall, when we painted our birch tree backgrounds, we did some watercolor color mixing. You can mix on your paper or mix on your tray, but I do not want you to waste any of the watercolors because they are kind of expensive. If you want the colors to stay nice and crisp, like see this outline is nice and crisp here. You can see the difference between where the yellow and the green start and end. All you have to do is let it dry for maybe a minute or 30 seconds in between the colors. If you want them to fade together like this area, you do need to work rather quickly. And what I like to do, I kind of like to wet my paper first. So I'll rinse my brush. I might, where I'm going to put my yellow stripe, I might wet my paper. And maybe next to it, wet my paper a little bit. So this is called a wet on wet technique. You definitely still want to stay inside your lines. You don't want it dripping all over your background. But notice how when I spread that, it doesn't move the green at all. So once I have a wet paper, not too much of a puddle, and then I'll go ahead and take some of my yellow and I'll kind of drip that on, and you'll notice it kind of spreads. The water kind of helps the color bleed. And working so super quickly, I won't even rinse my brush. I'm just going to dip right in the green, and I'll just sort of, ooh, look at that. See, they're kind of blending together. And then maybe I might rinse my brush and take my brush and sort of start to blend those colors. Now it kind of looks like the paper's turning funny colors. It will dry in about a minute or so, and you'll be able to kind of tell the colors that you've got going on there. If you want to go back and add a second layer of color, you can always go back and add a second layer of color to make it a little bit darker. But if you like it those light colors, you can leave it those light colors. Add a little bit more green in there. A little bit of green in there. So that's how the watercolors work. Yes, you do have to do watercolors somewhere. It doesn't have to be in all those teeny tiny little spots. If you'd prefer to color those with a crayon or even with the woodless colored pencils, you can use those. I think they're on the front shelf. You could also choose to just watercolor paint your background, which would be neat. Think about the leaves or the branches or what might be in the background. So I'm not going to take any more of your time. I can't wait to see what awesome textures you're able to show with your crayons and Sharpies, and then how much fun you have with your mixing your paint colors. By the way, we're using a very small, it's a size 4 watercolor paintbrush. It's got a soft bristle. Okay, when you're done, which I'm not done, but if you are done, you could ask a buddy if they need any of these colors, and if you need to go get a refill, you can go ask permission for a refill. If you need to change your water, you can change your water yourself, but you are not getting the paint yourself. You do need to help clean up. Once it's cleanup time, you could just dump your water in the sink, you could rinse your tray under the water and rinse your brush, and everything can drip dry on the drip dry mat that's right next to the sink. So have an awesome class. I can't wait to hear all about your art day.